Greetings, legends! Nick here with a fairly fun comic book video for you, and in honor of the newly released shots of Spider-Man's new black and red suit from Far From Home, I thought it'd be fun to take a look at all of the Spider-Man suits from each Spider-Man film and rank them. So refill your web shooters because we are about to go web slinging through. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know what I was about to do there. I don't really say things like this. So you know what? Let's just talk about the suits. Coming in at number 16 and in dead last place, we have the Spider-Man homemade costume from The Amazing Spider-Man. This Spider-Man looked like he was a bit down on his luck, a cat burglar mixed with a hobo, and I feel like they could have literally done anything else here and probably wound up in a better place than where they landed. I think this scene is also what soured so many people to Andrew Garfield's version of Spider-Man. While wearing this costume, he was just also kind of uncharacteristically mean. And I get that he was grieving, but just because you're grieving doesn't mean you can't have some style and be nice to people. I award you 0 points, Amazing Spider-Man homemade suit. Sorry, you're the worst. Coming in at number 15 is the PBS suit, and gone are the larger eyes that Spider-Man has always had, and they've been replaced with these creepy, beady eyes that are staring into my soul. They kind of look like how a cartoonist would draw eyes when somebody's trying to act romantic. Like, ooh, Spider-Man, are you flirting with me? Well, your no dog policy is an immediate turnoff. What kind of monster doesn't like dogs? Look, I don't have any definitive proof that Spider-Man hates dogs, but he's clearly enforcing a no dog policy, and I can't stand behind that. Next up, we have the Amazing Spider-Man suit from the 1970s on the television show The Amazing Spider-Man. This costume actually looks pretty good. It has all of the classic looks that you would expect, and it is certainly acceptable from the 1970s standpoint where people basically wore couch fabric for pants. Probably because everybody was on drugs. You know, the good old days. Except this suit does look a bit like giant pajamas, and the suit features eye holes that have these weird reflective shades in them. Honestly, it does make a lot of sense because you want your enemies to see their own fear in their eyes reflected back at them, so +1 to this Spider-Man for intimidation and mind games. Number 13 is a double play, and that is Marvel's Broadway Spider-Man suit and Marvel's Live Spider-Man suit, and I'm combining both of these suits into one category and ranking them here because they are pretty similar in looks and in quality. I will tell you that I have never seen the Broadway show or Marvel Live, but these suits look fine and fairly accurate to maybe something in the ballpark of mid-tier cosplay, but they're a bit hampered by the fact that they have to function on stage by leaving room for harnesses and junk like that and being readable from a distance. The only thing I can accurately say about this suit is that it exists and that it looks better than all of the other suits that have come before it on this list. At number 12, we have Japanese Spider-Man. We are officially out of the nightmare realm, and we are working with suits that are mediocre to good now. And the Japanese Spider-Man suit is a classic. The tiny spider on the chest, the weird eyes that are, you know what, let's not discuss those eyes. They're fine. They kind of look like what Ditko used to draw. Rest in peace. But the whole costume is cool, and the show was super campy and great. Spider-Man had his own mech named Leopardon, and I mean, that alone gives him priority over almost everything else on the list so far, so go Peter Parker. Also a side note, the Spider-Man Takuya Yamashiro and his big-ass robot Leopardon are canon now, having appeared in Spider-Verse, the comic book event, not the film. The next suit, coming in at number 11, is the wrestling costume, and this is a very late 90s, early 2000s look, but it is a classic. It looks fine, but honestly, for a costume created in that time period, I would have liked to see maybe some flames or a No Fear logo or maybe some Jinko jeans, but it's fine, it worked. That scene is a classic, but the true hero of this scene is Bonesaw, so just as long as we're clear on that. Rest in peace, Macho Man. Coming in at number 10, we have the Noir costume from Far From Home. This costume is being dubbed by the internet community again as the Noir costume, mostly because it looks a bit like the costume that an alternate version of Peter Parker from the 1920s wore. The suit is also being featured in the upcoming Spider-Man Far From Home film, and it's kind of unclear what the purpose is. Is it a stealth suit? Is it designed to prevent some type of attack from Mysterio? We don't know, but one thing's for sure, it ain't not bad. Coming in at number 9 is the Amazing Spider-Man #1 suit, and it got a lot of crap when it was first released due to the fact that it featured reflective eyes in gold. I mean, I don't know if these people at Sony learned anything from the mistakes of the 70s, but at least they tried to rationalize how Spider-Man could make such an expensive looking suit himself, sunglasses, which, let's be honest, just isn't possible, which is why Raimi ignored it and why the MCU had Stark make him one. The suit was highly modernized and it works well enough. It's not a bad suit, it just screams that Sony decided to update their spider suits that worked so well in the previous films because they didn't want people to associate or mistake those films or Peter from what came before it. Number 8 is the Sam Raimi symbiote suit. This suit could have been the GOAT. It could have been the bar. I mean, the symbiote suit in the comics is a classic. They had the framework in the Spider-Man trilogy to make this suit something truly special, and they kind of punted it. They had this negative version of the same costume that Spider-Man wore in Spider-Man 2 and 3. And it's fine, it's just not as good as it could have been. Number 7 is the Amazing Spider-Man 2's classic suit. This suit is probably the safest Spider-Man costume that's ever been put on the big screen. The colors are right, the eyes are right, the design is right. It's almost too right. You know what I'm saying? Facing massive backlash from the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit design, Sony came back hard and decided to play it as conventional as possible. This suit is good. There isn't anything wrong with it, but it isn't special in any way to me. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you don't want to risk ordering something you won't like, so you get that thing that you always get. Maybe it's like chicken tenders. Yeah, this is the chicken tenders of Spider-Man costumes. Gets the job done. Number 6 is the red and black suit from Spider-Man Far From Home, and I know what you're thinking. How are you going to put a suit that we haven't even seen in live action so high up on this list? Well, because it's dope. If you can't tell, I haven't covered any MCU Spider-Man suits yet, so you can rest assured that they are all grade A bangers. This suit is going to be a winner. It sports the same look that Spider-Man had in his Amazing Fantasy 15 debut and his first couple appearances, which means that if I don't give it the nod this high up in the list, then am I even a Spider-Man fan? Marvel kills it with their suits. I mean, think about it. How many times have they ever produced a bad suit? And this one kind of looks like another knockout. Yes, it's a bit of a departure from the previous suits and the look that general audiences know, but it's going to be a home run, and you and I both know it. Coming in at 5, we have the homemade suit from Spider-Man Homecoming. And I love this costume. It really looks cool. It reminds me of the Scarlet Spider-Man costume from the 90s, just a classic look. It looks like something a 15 or 16-year-old kid would build if he didn't have the ability to build himself a $20 million Stark suit. The suit also represents the heart of Spider-Man, as Tony alludes to in Homecoming. If Peter needs a suit to truly recognize himself as Spider-Man, then maybe he shouldn't be a hero. This suit proves that a guy in sweatpants can save the world with enough determination and heart. Number 4 is the Iron Spider, and this suit is top tier. I mean, the entire top 4 of this list, these are all incredible suits, and I think depending on the day you can move these entries around all you want, but the Iron Spider suit looks badass. It doesn't necessarily look 100% like the Iron Spider suit from the comics, but it is just as good, maybe better. Especially with the mechanical arms that come out and help Spider-Man in battle. Now, I'm going to be a bit of a stickler here, and I'm going to have to put it in 4th place because the suit technically doesn't even exist. It was entirely CGI, and because of that, it's unfair to give it one of the top spots. In fact, it's kind of unfair to even put it on the list, but here we are, and no takesies backsies. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 is the Sam Raimi suit from Spider-Man 1. This is the first spider suit to land on the big screen, and it is an instant classic. The darker navy tones of the costume and the raised webbing is a bit of a departure from other looks, but ultimately it's one of the best modernized live-action suits to ever hit the big screen. The only real downside to the costume is the fact that, to me, the suit looks a bit stiff due to the lack of articulation in the neck and in the head. The lack of articulation in the head and the eyes kind of make the performance as Spider-Man suffer a bit. Not being able to turn the character's head naturally kind of made it seem a bit similar to the cow from Batman Begins. However, at the time, it was the best that we can get, and it deserves to stay near the top. Number 2 is the Spider-Man suit from Spider-Man 2 and 3. This suit was as close to perfection as you could get for a live-action costume, and it is basically exactly the same as the suit from Spider-Man 1, with some minor alterations. They lighten the blues, they lighten the reds, and even battle damaged, it does look right and has the right feel. Everything about this costume works, and it makes you believe that Spider-Man is a real dude. But there can only be one winner, and that winner is the Stark suit from Spider-Man Homecoming as well as Captain America Civil War. It does convey a classic look of early Spider-Man appearances from Ditko, but in a perfectly modernized form. It's not as classically correct as the suits from Spider-Man 1 through 3, but it does have one differentiating factor that the others do not. The animated eyes are a game changer. Having animated lenses allow the characters to convey emotions in a way that nearly every other Spider-Man was unable to. It just helps Spider-Man deliver a more comic booky and more enjoyable performance. During the events of Civil War, Peter actually tells Tony that he needs goggles from the homemade suit to focus. So, Tony adding that feature here not only makes it more emotive, but it also makes sense within the actual universe. The costume is similar enough to older Ditko costumes that the liberties taken don't detract from the overall look. I'm not saying that the costume is perfect, but it is as close to perfection as we've been able to come yet, and because of that, it definitely deserves to take home the gold. So the Stark suit has taken home the gold, which means that this video is about over, but be on the lookout for our next video where I'm going to rank each of the 45 Iron Man suits in the MCU. Just kidding, I'm not going to do that at all, unless people demand it, in which case I'll kind of have to. You know what, I'm saying it now, I'm not going to make that video. It was just a joke, I'm not going to make it. This has been Nick with Key Issues, and remember the motto, comics over everything.